2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Locked and Loaded, free at last, apparently. I am your host, Smart Pig 2150. This is your co-host, Sergeant Buck, and our rather verbose program manager, Pavros. How is everybody doing tonight?
I,
Not drunk
I just,
enough, but happy to not be in school, so there's that.
Well, as
I
long as we
just,
don't have a daddy floor buck tonight, that's fine.
Hmm.
Mr. McGraduated.
No,
I've been,
I did that on Saturday night, so we're good.
All right. How about you, Pav? How are you doing?
I've been fucking sick for the past 5 days with the flu. That's where I'm
So,
at.
what you're saying is today you're better than you were yesterday.
Yeah, it's significantly, but I still
And
feel
there
like I
you
want to
go.
die.
There's the silver lining.
If you can call it that.
So we are actually a little bit late tonight because well, we've kind of just had to throw the freaking thing together the whole or like within the last 30 45 minutes. Pav has a day job, you know. Mr. McGraduated decided that he was going to eat food last minute, so he wasn't here.
Wasn't
And
me
I had to
making
go hose off because I'm a pig. I'm actually rather clean.
Well,
So,
you're clean now. You weren't clean before.
well, I
That's
like being clean. That's the whole point. I'm a pig.
Yes, but you are a pig, which means you do get dirty quite often.
Yeah, but pigs like to be very clean as well. Pigs are very clean animals.
Yeah, I've heard something about the mud, right?
I will
The mud
shit
is
on your
actually.
freaking pillow. We are clean animals, goddammit.
If you put mustard in my
Don't make me
sheets
laugh
again.
too much. I'll die coughing.
Oh, let's not have that. That would not happen.
No, either way. So what do we have on the agenda to talk about tonight, Mr. Dictatorship?
We have a few like rather interesting things, not our typical stuff. Some things that I mainly want to rant about. Some stuff you guys want to rant about. Just a few short stories is all.
Alright, so basically it's going to be more of a serious tone.
In some of it, yeah,
Somewhat serious, I'd imagine.
somewhat.
Alright, so what's the first one?
The first one is actually a article by a games journalism like thing that I have actually never heard of until this weekend, called Waypoint. And the title of it is "We Haven't Covered Kingdom Come Deliverance. Let's talk about why." And it's actually not an article, it's just kind of like a statement. And I kind of wanted to talk about that.
Alright. Well, kick us off then, buddy.
All right, I would actually request one of you to read the statement, and then allow us.
Since your throat shut, I'll
Alright,
take this up.
I'll take care of that then. Hang on a second. Let's see, where is it? This son of a bitch thing. Would help if I'm looking at the right freaking window. There it is. Let me bring it up. Alright. And Waypoint. Isn't this a subsidiary of Vice?
Is it?
Yes.
It is. No wonder I've never heard of it.
It's like their whole motherboard
Alright.
thing.
So, yeah, this is actually rather short and sweet. It's by Patrick Klepek.
Klepek. Where have I heard that name before?
That's an L.
It
looks
might.
like an I.
Patrick. It might be he's the senior reporter, and so he's kind of speaking for.
This was posted
Waypoint.
back on February 16th.
Yeah,
So
but I didn't see it until recently, and I just wanted to talk about it.
Okay. Kingdom Come Deliverance, an open-world medieval RPG set during the Holy Roman Empire, launched earlier this week, and it's already an enormous hit. I didn't realize that Deliverance released back in February. Waypoint hasn't written about the game yet, partially because we struggled over how to cover a game whose creative director has both publicly and forcefully supported Gamergate and made highly questionable statements about the game's historical accuracy regarding representing people of color. Okay.
Oh no.
So you don't want to cover their game because they supported Gamergate. Huh. And yet, because even though they supported Gamergate, they have one of the most successful games of the year so far. Kind of makes you think, huh? Historical accuracy regarding representing people of color. Maybe we shouldn't cover it all. Well, if you want to be a cunt, that's fine. On the podcast, Austin, Patrick, and Danielle. Is that Danielle or Daniel?
Danielle.
Danielle. Okay, just making sure I read that right. Decided it was time to have a public conversation about all this.
No, I'm not looking to actually listen to the podcast.
I'm not really interested
Yeah.
in listening. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, we would have to listen to the podcast in order to get the whole story, it seems.
Well, I do have some notes about kind of like the things that they brought up in less of a fashion than
Okay, hit us with it.
So one of the things that they had brought up in specific was to the historical accuracy of people of color. Is they had claimed that they talked to a historian who disagreed with the conclusion that the company who made the game, Kingdom Come Deliverance, had came that there was only because even though it says it was in the Holy Roman Empire, it said Bohemia at the time, and then there was only Bohemians that lived there. Therefore, there weren't any other ethnicities. The historian that they had talked to claimed that's not entirely the case, and that is in their statement, like in their words, questionable. And he referred to the fact that in Spain during the time, because it's set during like 1403, in Spain during the time, there were other ethnicities, and from
Yeah, I mean, Spain was under the parts of Spain was under the control of the Ottoman Empire at the time.
not Ottomans. Buck, you
said the Moors, I think.
Yes, the Moors. The Moors.
Okay, the Moors.
Yeah, so the Moors had which was the kind of just empire that took over the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of Spain. So it's kind of, a little, that would make complete sense if they had multiple ethnicities.
I mean, if the game took place over the entirety of Europe, then there would be definitely places where, that in that time period you might encounter people of a darker complexion.
Right.
Right.
And from the statement of the creative director, he said that during the research they had found that though there might have been traders that came up through Bohemia, which is a side of Europe than Spain, so it's really weird that this historian
Let me see exactly where. Let me pull up exactly where Bohemia was.
Bohemia was kind of in Czechoslovakia. Is kind of where Bohemia was. The Holy Roman Empire spanned over Germany, Hungary, Austria, Czechoslovakia, and Poland. I think that's where the
kind of the mid-European region.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Bohemia, it was smack dab in the middle of Europe.
Right.
Yeah,
And
right
it is now called Czechia.
Yeah, it's now called the Czech Republic.
Right. And it's really nowhere close to Spain. And like, even if you were to try to make the argument, because you had actually brought up the Ottoman Empire, No, I'm pretty sure the Ottoman Empire were a little bit later than when this took place. I could be completely wrong. I'm not a historian
Mm,
myself.
the Ottoman
Um,
Empire was there for a very long time.
yeah.
Something like, I
See,
forget how long it was around. It was around for more than 500 years, I want to say.
It's
There for a
it's
while.
a significant amount of time, and like it finally, I think didn't it finally end after like World War One.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
mhm.
Um, and but even then, like the Ottoman Empire never reached the Czech Republic. They kind of got into Hungary, and then I think their expanding stopped when they lost a war in Austria. Just what is now called Austria, at least. Um, and so there wasn't anyone from the creative director's statement. There wasn't any other ethnicities that lived in Bohemia at the time. It was all Bohemians, and so just the from the way I was looking at it, it really felt like this historian was conflating Spain with Bohemia. As
Yeah,
stupid as that kind of sounds.
no, you see, I think I know exactly how they did this. They asked about the entirety of Europe rather than just that central location of Bohemia.
Do you think the
I
English
think that, and
was on
I
their
am
side?
pretty, yeah, I'm pretty sure that instead of asking about Bohemia specifically, they asked about Europe as a whole.
And then the historian referenced Spain, which because
Hmm.
it would make sense that he would mention Spain.
Yeah,
Spain was a
because
part of an empire that
if he's talking about Europe as a whole, he would talk about Spain. He would
right.
talk about um, the southern portions, the southeastern portions of Greece. They would talk about Turkey. You know, they would talk about Europe as a whole rather than just that small region of compared to Europe, that small region of Bohemia. I mean,
Right.
Bohemia it's mountainous. It's really hard to get to on foot, especially back in the day when you didn't have roads and railways and
Oh
things
yeah.
like that cut into paths cut through the mountains to get there. You know, it's one of the reasons the Alps and what are those mountains on the
The
eastern
Caucasus?
border?
I think
The
it's the Caucasus,
Caucasus.
yeah.
They are largely what's responsible for the Ottoman Empire itself from being able to successfully invade Europe as a whole.
Right.
Because if you look to the south, you see, the Middle East. You see some mountainous regions when you get closer to the Himalayas and whatnot. But for the most part, it's flat plains and deserts and river deltas.
Mhm.
Hmm.
They wouldn't understand. They wouldn't know how to. I mean, they were strong. They had very strong cavalry. That's how
Right.
they freaking conquered so much. Is they had really strong cavalry. But
That's how they took
cavalry doesn't do you a damn bit of good in the mountains.
right.
There's no planes for them to take advantage of their speed and to flank the enemy and engulf the enemy and hit with all the hit and run tactics that cavalry is used for.
Right,
You
and
know.
that's mainly how they took over North Africa.
Hmm.
There was one of the things I think I remember in, like
It's
back in
like
history class in my book. The they were called the religion spread by
horseback.
horse and sword,
Hmm.
and just basically referencing that how the religion, which is Islam, spread throughout all of it was because the Ottoman Empire and the Moors and the other subsects would just like ride into a town, kill a leader, and be like, "Hey, join us or die." And most of them would join, and then they'd go on to the next
But,
Yeah, I
little
mean
but
tribe.
that's pretty much how it's also how the freaking was the Huns.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, the
yep.
Huns
Yeah,
steamrolled through Asia.
that's why the Huns were so successful. They were very successful horse horsemen.
Just remember
They
that,
had very good bows and they were very good shots while on horseback. You know, they were fast. They moved quickly. They got around the legions. You know, they used short composite bows that had the strength to punch through the legionaries' armors from long range. You know, they were very, very successful because of the horse.
I mean, and it really. I love like remembering that whenever we talk about Islam as a religion, that'll always pop back into my head.
It was spread by horse and sword. Yeah.
peacefully
Peace-
spread
the
by
reli-
horse and
the
sword.
religion of
The
peace.
religion of peace, yet it was spread through violence and bloodshed.
Like any good religion.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the only way that I can think that they would have gotten that kind of answer from any historian who's worth his salt, is
Right.
if they talk to them as Europe as a whole rather than those small regions. Even now, some of those small regions are still very, very not diverse. Let's put it that way.
I think there's some places like yeah there are definitely a lot of places that are isn't Poland considered an ethno state?
I wouldn't say it's considered an ethno state per se.
I think you could make the claim, but they wouldn't call themselves one.
Right, and I think I'm deriving that from the Sauron suspension
So
debate.
Poland, they're exclusionary,
Right.
or,
I don't mean that-
maybe the better word for it is reclusionary.
Okay, ethno state has a lot of baggage behind it. I'll just say that like Poland is just ethnically Polish. Just put it that way.
Ethnically polarized. Let's put it that way.
Okay,
Yeah.
that works. But
Yeah, you guys didn't catch the pun.
no, I got the
Oh,
pun.
yeah,
Like 100% got the pun.
I see
I'm
what
just
you
trying
did
not to
there.
laugh.
Don't
So
want to kill our
so
producer now.
I mean, you don't.
hey, I've wanted to die for the past 5 days.
Hey man, as long as it's through laughter, everything's a-okay. There are
Right?
two ways. The two best ways to die is through death by laughter or death
Or
by
death
snoo
by
snoo.
I thought it was going to be suffocation, but in
I mean, if
the
that's what you're
female
into.
variety.
If that's what you're into. If that's what you're into, okay. let's try to keep the kink a little out of this family-oriented program.
Is that
We
what this is?
We don't
All
have
right.
our
I mean,
balloons.
one can dream.
I think the Daddy Floor Book Show after show can kind of disagree with that sentiment, but
Yeah, but that was the after show. Anyways, moving on. You were trying to say, Paul.
so when I was just like listening to the arguments that were being presented here, about the game, and it's talking about how it was historically accurate. It really felt like what Waypoint was trying to derive is that not only did they find a historian to kind of add doubt to the claim that the creative director made, but also adding doubt through just their own biases about Gamergate.
Yeah, they're trying to do a two-prong attack. It was like they're trying to freaking set up Gamergate as this totally. They're still trying to push the narrative that Gamergate was a freaking racist ass
Oh,
bullshit. And it wasn't that at all.
From how I hear about it at this point, unless you supported Gamergate, no one knows what it really was about. Unless
It's like Fight Club.
well,
Internet Fight Club.
not
So,
in that sense.
my understanding, I wasn't part of Gamergate. I didn't come onto the scene until maybe a year after it did.
Right.
Gamergate was about journalism and journalistic integrity in games media.
Right.
Right.
It was about. It started because.
Zoe
Well, actually,
Quinn.
it had two like inciting incidents.
Oh,
Incident where
I,
it
I
came out that Zoe Quinn was sleeping with a games journalist who had been cited on reviewing her game. Then the second inciting incident was when Anita Sarkeesian kind of just came out of nowhere and changed the narrative.
okay. So do you know who PSA Sitch is?
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
not.
Yeah, he did a video explaining what Gamergate was, and I think he did a very, very good job of it.
Right, and
If you want, if anybody watching this really wants to have an understanding of what Gamergate actually was, go and take a look at him. And I think Woz Lee actually made a really good one as well. I would suggest you dig through his videos and find his what Gamergate was from Woz Lee and PSA Sitch. I believe those two are the best explanations of what actually was that I found.
you know it's actually kind of fun because I didn't hear like I didn't know what Gamergate was until like the end of 2016 because that's when I started getting into the stuff. But the first time I actually heard about it was a conversation between a YouTuber by the name of Review Tech USA, who I watch sometimes, and Mundane Matt. I hadn't at the time. I had no idea who Mundane Matt was. I just
Didn't Mundane Matt
he kind
actually
he
build
kind of
his
started it.
build his base in during Gamergate? Isn't that how he got started?
More or
I'm
less.
pretty sure he was the one that like shot the first shot. Like from if I'm remembering it correctly, he was the guy
He also
that
had
sent out the tweet that was heard around the world type deal.
Huh.
I'd have to see the tweet.
Yeah, from and it's funny because like I kind of just like barely paid attention to the video when I watched it, and it's thinking back on it now, like I could have been like if I would have actually cared at the time, I could have been a part of it. But when I say you don't really know what it was about unless you were part of it, I mean in the sense of like you've seen videos from people who are part of it that explain to you what it was. And unless you follow the Gamergate supporters or you were a part of Gamergate, that's how I should have phrased this. You don't know what it is, and you just know the narrative that was being spun by Anita Sarkeesian and the games journalists who were being
Well,
attacked.
yeah. I mean, I didn't even know who.
What?
I'm not kidding. When I first started actually watching YouTubes and debunking videos, I think it was in 2016, like you, Pav. I think it was late 2016. It's like September or August. That was
June for me.
yeah. I think as early as May. I don't know. It was somewhere between May and August of 2016 when I started watching debunking videos. I didn't even know who she was until I saw a couple of Thunderfoot videos, actually like deconstructing her feminist frequency videos.
I had no idea who she was. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't. I don't think I ever heard of her until like it was probably one of the response videos to where I'd heard of her.
I think
Just way after she was like big. I think it was her the one where she went after Overwatch and MOBAs. I think that was the first time I ever heard of her.
Yeah, I don't think I even watched that one. I mean, yeah, it's like even now I have a hard time just watching the other side's videos.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Like there are a couple of people that I can watch, not because, you know, the only reason I can really watch their videos, like what's his name? Tim something.
Tim Pool? No.
No,
I
Tim
think
Pool's
his
not on
name's
the other side.
Tim Blake.
Mr. Dripping with Autism.
Yes, Tim Blake.
Okay.
Yeah, I can watch his videos. The reason I can watch his videos is because he's reasonable. You know, he's for the most part he's a very reasonable. He's a very well articulated individual. He actually thinks through his stuff. He actually, and he's got a sense of humor.
Mhm.
You know, he's not afraid. It seems from my viewpoint, he's not afraid to laugh at himself. You know,
I've had a lot of good interactions with him on Twitter.
I can watch Lacey Green's videos.
I can watch those too.
And there's
Yeah.
a couple others that I used to be able to watch because it seemed like they were approachable. You know, they didn't seem like they don't seem like shrieking harpies,
Yeah.
so to speak. You know, it's just I don't even want to touch it when I'm trying to sit down and watch a video and thinking like, okay, let's watch this and see what I can and pick apart. You know, maybe write my own script and make my own video for some stupid reason. And it's just like I can't get through it. It's like you're not even putting together a rational argument. How am I supposed to actually sit down and take you seriously?
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
And for me, like what it comes down to is like the reason why I'm able to watch response videos is because you get those momentary breaks from the just stupidity, where you have someone in the video making a statement or a response that you would, and so you feel a little bit more sane
Yeah.
when you have that moment. Because for me, sometimes what will happen is I'll just be sitting there.
Is
and
this
I'll try
person
to
is this
watch it.
person for real? I mean, is this and then you'll have the freaking the person who's actually doing the response. They'll pop up and it's like, "Oh, thank goodness. I'm not crazy." Oh
Right.
god.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like
I'm
completely
not going insane.
Yeah.
I got
And,
I got steeled to the whole Gamergate thing back when Jim was still internet aristocrat.
Medicare?
Yeah. Like that was
Honestly,
that
I
was,
didn't
what,
even know who Mr.
2013?
I didn't
Something
even
like
really
that.
know who Mr. Medicare was until back in October or November is when that shitstorm went down.
Yeah.
When
Yeah, I
Andy
didn't-
Worski went his freaking alt-right super neo-Nazi
Right.
way.
I didn't even know who he was until someone mentioned that Mr. Medicare was going to be making a video about it, and I'm like, who the fuck is that?
I mean, I'd seen his videos posted in the channel a couple of times before, and I was like, oh, seems interesting. But then I looked at I remember looking at his channel, I was like, he doesn't really content, and most of what he's talking about, I'm not really interested in listening to. And now it's like, man, every video that comes out, I listen to it because it's gold. It's
Yeah.
like this is intensely amusing.
I can never get tired of the internet insanity videos. Fucking Terry Davis all up in this.
I still haven't gone off and watched it. I kind of don't want to.
So we've gotten way off track here.
We
Yes,
we
we
have. All right,
Is there
rolling
anything
it back.
else anybody has to say on the Kingdom Come to the box?
I do actually.
Go
I want to. I actually pose a question. Can I ask you something? So
Sure.
the game was touted as being extremely historical accurate. That was what they set out to do.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, because for me, I don't give a fuck either way whether or not there was black people or white people inside this game. I don't like. I could see. It's not like I'm trying to take a centrist position on this. For me, it doesn't really make a difference. but does it? Is what I kind of want to ask you guys.
Well, it depends. Like in the situation where you have Kingdom Come Deliverance, the developers were taking the stance that this is a very, very historically accurate portrayal of medieval Eastern Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
Now, if you're trying to make it historically accurate, it would make sense that it's historically accurate.
Right.
So
Right.
that, in that sense, that's important to me because this is what you're advertising. If it's not what you're advertising, it's false advertisement,
It
and
wouldn't have
fuck you, I'm
sold.
not going to buy your game on principle,
Yeah.
right?
Right. But I mean,
Now,
even
no,
okay. Okay. You're good.
I was still making my point. But now, if they were just making, so let's say The Witcher,
Right.
that's based on Poland,
But it's
Polish
not just
lore and folk
yeah,
tales and
just
things like that.
specifically Polish lore.
Mm-hmm.
Not even
Yeah, I mean
Poland. It wasn't
specifically,
even
but
representative.
still, it was still based on medieval Poland and their folklore and things like that.
Right. And for that I could make that makes sense in my head.
But
I'm gonna
because of what The Witcher was, they would have been able to get away with, say putting Asian people in there. They would have been able to get away with it because it was a fantasy to begin with.
right.
It was a
Yeah.
fantasy world. They could have done whatever they wanted with it because it's exactly that. It was fantasy. It was based on Polish folklore, sure, but it was still fantasy. But when you're trying to put together something historically accurate and it's focused on this region, then I would say that it's important for it to be historically accurate.
Correct. So here's what I kind of want to say. In their experience, that there was traders of different ethnicities that would come through. Now they didn't live there, at all. And for what I'm kind of just thinking here is like it's kind of a 2 point thing. I don't want to make the statement. Is this the whole like the hill you want to die on? That's kind of I think where I'm getting at. Because like it didn't. It's not that they didn't exist, and even he admitted that it's not that they didn't exist within it. It's that they didn't live there. Therefore, you're not going to end up with any main or just like person of interest that would be a different race
All
because
right.
it's not
Well,
something
let
that
me
would
let me
have.
see if I can put this the way that I see it. If you are living in an area the size of a mountainous region, so let's say Kentucky.
Okay.
Kentucky's a mountainous region. It's about this. It's a little bit larger than Bohemia is, but still, it serves the purpose. If that region is all Kentuckies, all people from Kentucky, that you were born there, you were raised there. Let's just say that all of your skin colors were, let's go with purple. If
Okay.
one orange person from, say, Texas were to go through Kentucky, what are the odds of you, as a person living in Kentucky, actually seeing this orange person?
Okay. I thought you were going in
That's
a different
kind
direction
of,
with that.
I believe that's kind of the point they were trying to make. Did they exist? Yes, probably. That no one can really say for sure. Did they exist? Probably. Does that mean you're going to see them just because they probably existed? Hell no. You might have onesies and twosies trying to be traitors and whatever and get away from the whatever area that they were fighting in, but you're not going to see them. If it not very often, if at all.
Right. And
Right.
and I
So
just
to expect you to go into the game and be an average person or not an above average person or whatever in the game, and you're seeing black people all over the fucking place, you're seeing Asian people all over the place. No, that's not going to happen. Maybe, just maybe, you'll see one from afar and they're running away because they're the enemy,
And
regardless of
actually,
whether they're traitors or not.
so I thought you were going to go with a different direction there. I thought you were going to go with they would become a lot more important because you've grown up around purple people all your life.
No, I mean
Orange person.
it would be
That would also
it would
be
be
an
more
argument
of a
against
it would be more of a spectacle than anything else.
That's what I mean. Like they would become something to catch your attention. Like if you just saw an orange person and you'd never seen an orange person before.
Well, yeah, I mean,
would have to create.
if you had never seen an orange person before and you by chance saw one, yeah, it would catch your attention really, really, really,
That
really
would-
strongly.
I could see that becoming an argument for it, for not
But-
having them in there because of what it would like the.
Yeah, but
type of
it still
situation.
comes back to what are the fucking odds? You know,
Okay.
what are the actual chances that you would see that orange person going through? It's slim to none, especially in a mountainous region. You know, different towns could be 5 miles away, but no one has ever traveled between them because there's no actual pass. You know, as the crow flies, they're maybe 5 miles away from each other, but as the freaking deer walks, you know, they're like 40, 50 miles away from each other. And back in the day, back in the 1400s or whatever, when this game is supposedly taking place, what is the time frame for this game again?
That was Holy
1400s,
Roman
1500s?
Empire, so yeah, that'd be probably between the 13th and 15th century, somewhere in
Almost 100%.
somewhere in there.
Here, Kingdom Deliverance.
Okay, so
Okay,
back in
15th
the
century.
medieval time period during the Holy Roman Empire, you know, people rarely traveled outside of a 10-mile radius of their home.
You're right, unless they were a traitor.
Um, unless they were conscripted soldiers, they would not leave their farmland. They wouldn't leave their small town. They wouldn't do any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
And that's and I can see that, and it just I guess for me what it is just the question that popped into my head was like is this really that important?
it's not. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a video game. If this is
Right.
for me, I'm a gamer, right? I love playing
Right.
video games. I'm
Me
almost
too.
always playing a game when I'm at my house. You
I
know,
have
there
few
there are
games that
times
we
when I
should play.
don't there are times when I don't want to play a game, but for the most part, that's how I pass the time. I play video games. I love them.
Right.
And historical accuracy is not a selling point for me.
Mm.
But if
I
you
think that-
are selling your game as historically accurate, I expect it to be historically accurate.
Correct. And that's where I would have just twisted that. It's like even if it isn't like something it's for you, that's what they're claiming it was.
Yeah, I mean,
It just I don't know. I think where my contention just comes from is just the argument. Like the argument of this should have had more black people in it.
well, who gives
That's
a
really
shit?
dumb. That's
It's-
but that's
yeah,
really
it's-
dumb.
it's really just-
But I also right. But
Comes
I
down to
also
who gives a shit?
right. And but I also feel like the other side of the argument is also really dumb because for me it's like both contentions with it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, no, that's
Well,
kind of what I
it
was
also comes back to that whole fucking argument. Like, do you remember back in what was it, Resident Evil 5 or Resident Evil 6 that took place in Africa?
right, and they were all Africans,
And they
except
were
for the main
all
character.
Africans, and there were claims of racism. All the zombies were
Right.
African. It's like, well, no fucking shit, they were all African. You're in Africa.
That was kind of funny, actually.
You know, the majority of Africa is populated with black Africans. You know, you're not going to see some random white freaking zombie in the middle of deep jungle freaking village that you're freaking trying to get through with a shotgun. You're going to see a whole bunch of freaking black people. You know, that's
Just can't win.
that's
can't win.
demographics. That's how they work. You
I
know?
had,
It's
I
just
had
it's the same
remembered.
thing with Kingdom Come Deliverance. I mean, were there black people in 1400s Europe? Probably. There was probably onesies and twosies here and there. Did that mean that everybody in Europe knew that they were there? Hell no. I mean, hell, there are plenty of people in Europe who didn't understand the difference between horses and donkeys, horses and mules. Hell, mules and donkeys didn't maybe not have even existed at the time. I don't know. All I'm saying is it really that important? No.
Right.
I mean, if you're trying to maintain historical accuracy, you're trying to maintain historical accuracy. I mean, and what are the odds that someone in Europe was going to see a black person unless they were in frickin' Spain?
Right.
Or, you know, what's the you know
What's
those 2
the-
points between North Africa and the southern edge of Spain? The ones where they're right together in that strait that connects the Mediterranean to the Atlantic.
Is that Strait of Gibraltar? No.
Strait of Gibraltar?
I think
I don't
no, I
know.
think I'm off there. I'm not the best at the whole geography thing.
Anyways, unless you're living in those areas that are really, really close, where you're seeing two ethnic groups that are actually butting up to each other, you're not going to see a whole lot of different groups.
Right. And with that, I say we move on to our next article.
I believe we have beat this horse to death and raced it into the grave,
Yes.
beat it back into the grave. So yeah, let's go.
All right.
All right, so next up is what was next in line? I have everything pulled up, but I don't want to click on things in the wrong order.
No, that's
I
up
will-
to Mr. Pav over here.
We were skipping the Trump story, were we not?
Okay.
Just pig.
Let's see.
Shit, fuck it. Okay, let's go with this one. March for Our
Okay.
Lives.
We'll go with that one then.
Let's not do the 6 minutes and 20. Well, yeah, you know, fuck it. Yes, let's go. Let's do the 6 minutes and 20 seconds one first.
All right. Let me run this ad out for Christ's sake.
I
Ads
just
on
have the
fucking
damn thing
everything
muted.
here. Yeah, I got it muted too. But I
What
have to
the
let it
fuck?
run so
Hang
I
on a
can have the
second.
video run. Gotta turn on that pesky ad block.
I'm looking at this global news. It just says it's a video.
Yeah.
What the hell?
It's a video.
File could not be played. GG Global News.
7 minutes of no. Screw this one. It's gonna be 6 minutes and 20 seconds of her just standing.
Well, no, the first minute of it was her talking. But well, that's just all right. Okay, so with this one, what I was thinking about talking was more of the stuff around it.
I am taking.
Rather
All right.
than,
Well, then let's
than
click on
what
the other
actually
one.
happened.
All right.
And so yeah, I was mainly posting the global news one to kind of get us started on the conversation. That's the same
Okay.
link.
So I did hear about the whole standing.
Oh, this
thing.
is the second one that you posted was a YouTube video.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, can. Shit. Okay.
So let me know when you want to start it, and we'll kind of let it play out. It's about 18 seconds.
Yep. I'm gonna Everyone got it pulled up? So I'm going to start it in 3, 2, 1.
He was in middle school. It was no surprise to anyone who knew him to hear that he was the shooter. Those talking about how we should have not ostracized him, you didn't know this kid! Okay, we did!
Jesus.
So, so when I was kind of like going through this and looking at the whole March for Our Lives stuff, it the whole thing seemed rather like frantic, and it was very abnormal to see all these kids just come out of like
The woodwork.
this. Well, no, just come out of this and just become like going. They're on a campaign. And what brought me to where I wanted to talk about it was this video. And in this video, she admits that her and probably some of the other kids who are on the
Are you talking about
March for Our Lives.
Are you talking about that 18-second YouTube video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't come out and says that they ostracized him though.
She's
She's just calling out in that video. She's calling out the people who are saying, "Well, maybe you shouldn't have bullied him. Maybe you shouldn't have ostracized him." It's like, well, you didn't know this kid. It's like, and she's got a point. It's like you don't hang out with people you don't want to hang out with. It's like if nobody wanted to fucking hang out with them, they'll boo fucking who. It's like no one would. You can't freaking force someone to hang out with someone that they don't like.
Right.
Not in high school, at least.
We're not talking about that though. But no, I would disagree with your interpretation of what you said. It felt more like she was. It felt more like she was responding to people going after her for doing it.
Well, yeah, she was. She absolutely was. But what she was saying is, and I quote, "For those of you who are saying maybe we shouldn't have ostracized this kid, you didn't know this kid. We did." Which tells me that he was a fucking creep. It's like just the way that she said it. It just screams desperation, as in, holy crap, how could you freaking ask us to have actually hung out with this guy? He was a fucking creep. He was just he was one of the one person that you never wanted to hang out with, not because it would have been uncool or lame, but because he was freaking scary.
Right. And
that's what that tells me.
Right. And I don't disagree with you there. But my point where I'm going with this is what it almost feels like to me is it feels like at least she, maybe not the others, but at least she has guilt when it comes to the situation. Like, whether or not it's a reality of the way of whether or not she like really bullied him or not, it almost feels like she feels guilt, at least subconsciously, to the fact of that this happened. And like I understand what you're saying, that it doesn't, that the reason.
So,
like,
to going off of what you're saying, I mean, it's a plausible idea. I mean, a bunch of kids, all of a sudden they're thrown together, and they're leading this, quote unquote, leading this movement. On the one hand, it's plausible to think that they're doing all of this because they feel guilty about this whole situation.
I wouldn't say that's entirely the thing.
Well, it's like I was saying, it's plausible that they're doing this because they feel guilt. It might not be it might not be outright, holy shit, I did something, this is my fault, and let me do this to try and shift the blame off of me or something like that. It's more of a, I feel really, really bad. Why do I feel really, really bad? And they're trying to get rid of that bad feeling. It's plausible. I'm not saying that's what it was. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist.
Right, and I'm not,
I just,
I'm not claiming to know. It just, that's what it's kind of felt to me, where, because there's a lot of statements that they have made throughout this entire campaign that is just completely ridiculous and feels extremely frantic, of just like trying to shove everything off onto guns, like saying, like the statement she made, it's easier to get an AR-15 than it is to get a poster board, which is just false in so many ways. A poster board costs you like, what, $14? An AR-15 costs you a background check and a couple $1,000 or $1,000.
well, no, I mean, I wouldn't say a couple. It's actually not. You can actually get a AR-15, a lower end model from.
Like an actual armor light, or are you talking like
So an AR platform. You
the
can't get an actual Armalite. All right, the Armalite doesn't exist anymore. It hasn't existed since before the
Right.
F-16 was adopted by the freaking military. So
terms here.
what I'm saying is there are plenty of rifles that are AR-15s.
Yeah,
Doesn't
they're
matter if it was made by Colt or Springfield or Bushmaster or whoever. If they used the system that the AR-15 was built on, which is why it's an AR-15, then it's an AR-15.
Right.
Some
Okay.
companies sell them for less. You know, you can get an AR-15, a very basic AR-15 for $500 or $600, and that's overestimating, I think.
But it's still significantly more difficult to get than a poster board.
Yeah, I mean that's not, it's like Florida. Florida has a 3-day waiting period. Period. You know, it doesn't matter if you have a concealed carry permit. It doesn't matter if you're in the military. It doesn't matter. Blah blah blah. There's a 3-day waiting period. You go in, you apply to, you do the background check, which costs money. You do the broker deals, which costs money, and you pay for the taxes and the weapon itself. And if you're buying a $600 gun, you know, that's 7% tax plus the $20 shipping charge that my local gun shop will charge you, because they ship in the guns, and then when you buy it, they ship in another one so that, you know, they have something in the store to replace it. You know, it makes sense. But he's upfront about it. He's like, I'm charging this much for the gun itself. I'm charging this much for the shipping that I pay for the gun to come here for me to sell it, so on and so forth. So if you buy a $500 gun, it's going to cost you $560, right? There's that 3-day waiting period. Now, that 3-day waiting period is checking to see if you have felony, which isn't actually that hard. You know, you can just look at somebody's license and tell if they have a felony or not.
Right.
You know, on Florida license, they have a number at the very end, and it's either a 0, or it's a 1, or it's a 2, or it's however many. 0 is the vast majority of everybody because they have 0 felonies. All you have to do is a broker has to do is look at your license, and if he sees a 1, he's going to tell you, dude, you're just wasting your time. You might as well just leave. I cannot legally sell this to you.
Right.
Right? And then you have the background check that goes through and just see if you really don't have any felonies on your thing, because you might be using an old license that was expired, that hasn't expired yet you served a couple of years in jail for a felony, or for even for a misdemeanor domestic violence charge, right? Because if you have a misdemeanor in your criminal background for domestic violence against a spouse or a child, guess what? You are not legally, you can't legally own a firearm. You know, if that happens while you're in the military, guess what? You kick the fuck out because you can't legally handle a firearm.
Mhm.
So, no, I mean, no matter what, it's not easy for you to own a gun legally, you know, and if you go to the black market, it's going to be even more expensive. If you can't own a gun illegally and you go to the black market, it's going to cost you like 5 or 6 times as much.
Right, and it's just that there's a lot of statements that are like that are just they feel
Ignorant?
not just ignorant but frantic.
Frantic
Like
propaganda.
I'm trying to find every possible way I can to throw this on guns.
Well, that comes back to well, what's it called? What's that phenomenon called? Cognitive dissonance. It's like your world, your worldview up until this point made sense, and all of a sudden it doesn't make sense. So your brain naturally goes through this huge process of trying to rationalize everything. It's like the 5 stages of grief.
Yeah.
5 stages?
Yeah,
Whatever,
5
where
stages.
you go through anger, and then pleading, and then remorse, and then finally acceptance or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, your brain the reason they call it the 5 stages of guilt is because as 5 stages of
Grief.
grief is because it's documented. It's been seen so many freaking times. So it's not that far-fetched to think that that's exactly kind of what they're trying to go through. They're going through anger, and they're going through denial, and they're going through bargaining, and then they're going through acceptance, and so on and so forth. I can't remember the exact stage, all exact stages of it, but you know, it reminds me. There's this clip that was done. I think it was done by Robot Chicken about the stages of grief,
Mm-hmm.
where it was the giraffe that gets caught in
in
the
the
quicksand
quicksand.
pit.
Yeah.
It goes through all of them. It kind of just portrays every single one perfectly, and it's just it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing mechanism of the human mind. It's like everybody goes through it. Everybody who goes through grief goes through those stages. It doesn't matter how long the stage takes place. If they still go through those phases, unless they die before they finish it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's very possible that they're going through anger right now. They're lashing out. Someone to blame. They're trying to find a scapegoat for their own grief.
But that's kind of what I was just. It was just one of those things where I was just like thinking through. It feels off, I guess.
It feels wrong, yeah.
Yeah, because it like I think Sargon, he did a stream about this earlier, and he kept trying to see if he could find like the adults who are in charge. Like he went to, they have a GoFundMe and stuff, and he went to go see if he could find like the person who's gaining all the money from the GoFundMe and all these different kinds of things, and but it's like somehow these kids have been able to raise a shit ton of money and just go on like a political campaign trail.
Yeah, it's I've seen a lot about this. It's one of those situations where you remember back in Nazi Germany, you had the Nazi youth or the Hitler youth or whatever?
Yeah, the Hitler Youth.
Yeah, and Hitler used children to normalize things, to hit people where they're most vulnerable, their children.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he used children to spread his message and to think of, but think of the children situation, and it's understandable. It's like, holy crap, that makes.
It's a tactic that works.
Uh-huh.
Right,
I
but
mean,
are you saying that that's
if
happening right
anything
now?
is absolutely hardwired into the human psyche, it is
The
the propagation
protection.
of the species. It's the protection of the children.
Right.
Right.
You know, it's the same thing with women. It's why gynocentrism is so prevalent in the majority of the world, even if it's not really on the surface. You know?
Yeah.
Right. But are you then saying that's what's happening right now? That there is in fact some people who are organizing this and just kind of using these kids as the face.
Well, look at
Tinfoil hat wise, yes, I'm pretty sure there is. Do I have any proof of it? No. I just have a very strong suspicion.
I mean, this thing sounds like it would be something ridiculously hard to do.
So,
No one just
like,
would just like
think about this. I
congregate.
mean, there's a conspiracy theory, and I'm saying it's a theory because I don't think there's any hard evidence I've seen, at least, that George Soros is the um organizer behind
Of
Antifa.
Antifa. Yeah,
Right?
when I was going through articles about March for Our Lives stuff, I definitely saw a few articles that like were titled George Soros like gave $300 per protester or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many plausible uh ideas about who's actually behind this pulling the string. But you know, that comes back to human psyche. Is like humans look for patterns. You know, they look for order in chaos when they don't understand something that what's going on. It's like, dude, there's got to be some massive conspiracy behind all of this. There's no way that this is just happening because it's happening. So
Yeah.
would I put it past someone to take advantage of these kids to try and push a political agenda? Hell no. I wouldn't put it past anybody. You know, I would be very surprised if someone wasn't manipulating these kids into pushing the political agenda that they want espoused. You know?
That's yeah. Here's it's from Snopes, actually. Someone named George Wall. Yeah, I'll post this. Somebody named George Wall tweeted, "Caught red-handed. March for Our Lives organizers paid protesters as much as $300 each."
I'm gonna bring
Or
this up.
Jacob Wall. Yeah.
Claim. Organizers, billionaire George Soros rang Craigslist ads offering $300 spitting on rating false. Origin. Hundreds of thousands of people turned out across the United States 24th March to participate in March for Lives, a grassroots protest against gun violence organized primarily by students moved to action as a result of recent mass shootings, blah, blah, blah. The name, alright. Uh-huh. Oh, I'm not reading this out loud because it's just a lot of words.
Yeah. No, I'm
Really.
looking at this
It's a
too.
fact check. It's a fact check.
Right. I'm not saying that this actually happened. It was just.
So like the
it's
ads themselves they had on Craigslist were you know, authentic, but I would say that this is I don't even really want to delve. We don't have enough. We don't really have enough time to actually delve into this. This is actually probably safe for next show.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's put a pin in this one, and then we'll come back to it next show.
All right.
So, March for Our Lives. Does anybody else have anything to say regarding the situation? Buck, you were unusually silent during this whole
Yes.
ordeal.
You
What do you
two,
have
you
to
two
add?
had a nice exchange. So I was just letting you two go at it, but I didn't really anything to add on to the whole what this chick was saying here. Aside from, I would not have said things that way. I would
Yeah,
have been a bit more tactful.
I think that, but then again, with age becomes what am I saying? Age, you
Wisdom.
fucking young piece of shit. With age comes control,
Yeah,
maturity. She's clearly very emotional during second clip.
I was watching some of David Hogg's speech earlier today.
I don't. David Hogg is a stupid piece of shit,
Oh
dude.
no, the whole time I'm sitting there going like, are you even old enough to vote?
Yeah, it's
And
like, dude,
you're
I
demanding that people vote?
he is going to my high school. My high school back in 2006 uh was moving towards uniforms, IDs,
Mm-hmm.
and clear see-through bags. And it
Jesus.
wasn't even because there was like a school shooting or anything. It was something that the parents wanted. They wanted their kids to have a school uniform. They wanted their kids to have school IDs and be required to wear school IDs visibly, because it was one of those prep them for life thing, because the excuse me, hang on, the alcohol is starting to catch up.
It's all good, dude.
Retailers. There are many retailers out there who require that if you come into their store as an employee and you go into the back end, that it be a clear vinyl bag. Something
Mhm.
that they can see into, so that they know that you're not trying to walk out of the store with merchandise.
Oh yeah, I can
Right, a lot
remember.
of the places.
Because trust, you can only trust someone so far when
Right.
Yeah,
theft happens, employee theft happens. It just
Right.
does. But it's still, you have a uniform, you have a name tag, and you have a clear vinyl bag if you bring a bag into the store.
hmm
That's fucking life. Like, even in the military, I had a freaking ID badge. I had a uniform, obviously. I was in the uniform services.
right.
I didn't have like a clear plastic bag,
No
but
transparent duffels, so we know
yeah,
you're not
there.
smuggling
Then
ACOG scopes out
again,
of the.
if I tried to sneak anything out of there and caught, guess what? That's at least 10 years in a federal penitentiary.
Yeah.
Along with the dishonorable discharge, which
Mm-hmm.
kills your ability to get a job.
Kills
Like,
your
it's
ability to get a
not-
job. It kills quite a few of your rights.
Right.
As a citizen, you don't have, like, you can't even like a dishonorable discharge from the military. It's basically a felony.
It's almost worse than a felony.
It actually, it is worse than a felony. But then again,
Right.
you basically admit in order to get a dis. But still, I really at this point don't give a shit. It's like, you don't want people to be able to come into your school with guns. Okay. So make it so that they can't come into your school with guns by making it so that they can't conceal said gun in a bag or, on their person. Because if everybody's wearing a uniform, if everybody's wearing a school ID tag, and they're wearing that uniform exactly as they're intended, then it's going to be kind of hard for someone to conceal a gun.
Yeah. Or I think I heard one parent going on and on about how schools need to have metal detectors, and I'm like, okay.
I don't have a problem
with
with having a metal detector. I'm not going into that school with anything that's going to set off that metal detector except for change.
Change and maybe the bindings in the notebooks, if anything, but fucking
Nah, the bindings in the notebooks are
those. I don't know.
doesn't set off metal detectors.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we didn't
Uh,
have them at my high school. We had one officer.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same for me. I had one student resource officer.
I think
You
he had a
know, I
12
didn't
gauge in
have-
the front seat of his car, though.
The SRO, he was just armed with a 9mm,
Yeah, no,
but
I think our SRO had a 12 gauge in the front seat of his patrol car and a 9mm. No, it was a 45 sidearm. I grew up in like a small rural town, so
yeah, it's
Very-
all right. Shit, I would love to move back to if I could get away with it, but no. So yeah, I think everything that we've had to say about March for Our Lives has been said.
Yeah.
What's next on the agenda, Mr. Program Manager?
Well, the next thing is probably something we're all going to have word talk about. It is the guilty verdict of Count Dankula. Give me 1 minute.
it's your boy Dank. Get this nice and centered here.
Count Dankula. Yeah, if you don't know what happened with Dankula, then you've been living under a fucking rock. Or you've had your Twitter shut down for the past week.
2 years.
No, like recently
And
happened.
there's-
Oh, recently then, yeah.
So,
There's,
what
I
recently
want
happened
to
with
talk
Count
about-
Dankula, with Marcus Meacham, he was convicted.
Yeah, this is a better thing to bring up. Keep
Uh,
talking.
he
keep
was
talking.
originally brought up on charges of, what was it, hate crime?
Yes, it was a hate crime, and he was convicted for specifically being grossly offensive.
Yeah, basically he was he was brought on charges. He was basically for teaching his pug how to do a Nazi salute, and he was convicted because he put it on YouTube. It was
Actually-
under the 2007 Communications Act,
Mhm.
something in Britain, which which basically makes trolling illegal.
Might have been the 03 Communications Act, but that's beside
The
the
03
point.
communication. Okay, it was the 03.
That Communications Act is the important part. That's yeah.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
and the wording of it is just like god awful. It makes it seem like you literally can't make a statement at all that's in any way negative towards anyone online, or else you can get
That's one way that it could be construed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sergeant Buck, I know you made a video. What are your thoughts on the situation at this point?
Mine, I mean, I kind of thought the same thing that Vernaculus did. I had just started reading 1984, so having this come up is like, what
I
the
haven't
fuck?
I haven't even started reading that yet. When you're done with that, send it to me so I can read it.
I can send you the audiobook.
This-
yeah, she send me that too.
That's what
I mean,
do.
if you have the actual, it would be nice if you sent me that. I mean, we're friends, right? You can trust me.
Right, yeah.
You'll get it
Yeah.
back eventually.
I have a copy of Starship Troopers I haven't even picked up.
Dude,
But-
I already have a copy of Starship Troopers. Don't worry about that. I've got Starship Troopers. I've read it like
Anyway.
8 billion times.
Yeah. Anyway, so the first thing I thought about when I heard the verdict was the one time I got kicked out of a dorm last year on similar grounds,
Mm-hmm.
which was I made a joke on Twitter to one of my friends that wasn't even that funny. It was just edgy. Kind of like the whole fucking pug thing here. And about 2 months later, I get called down to the RA's, or to the residential director's office, to talk about concealed carry and the school's policy on concealed carry. And I'm like, what is this about? Like, I don't have a gun. I do not own a firearm. And she spins the monitor around and shows me this school shooting joke I made, and says that my roommate reported me because the tweet made him feel unsafe.
Your roommate was a fucking cuck.
This was a kid who had a fucking emotional support animal. I
Like
don't
I
say
said,
man, I say kid.
Your roommate. No, and seriously though, I know a few people who have anxiety they actually do those types of animals.
Oh, I think he was legitimately just using the paperwork as an excuse to keep the dog on campus, because he never took the dog to class with him or anything like that. Just left him in the room. Like, motherfucker, this is a corgi. You can't leave a herding dog in a room for 16 hours. Stop. Anyway, just... So, yeah.
You were saying?
This fucking thing, I'm like, it pisses me off. I mean, it makes me think about how maybe in the U.S. we take freedom for speech a little for granted, because this would never happen in the U.S. This would not happen in the U.S. I don't think it would.
I hope not.
If it did,
no,
if it did,
it wouldn't. Not yet, at least.
That's what I mean.
If it did,
Not
there'd be
yet.
people up in arms over it. And I was shocked there wasn't more of an outcry, at least from comedians and things. Like, I think I made a tweet like, okay, Count Dankula's guilty of being grossly offensive. I better see Jimmy Carr arrested by the end of the week. But
Yeah, I mean...
just
Alright, Pav, what about you? What do you have to say about the situation?
I was fucking pissed. Like, I was genuinely pissed. Like,
Well,
I've
no,
often
let's
made
not.
this
Let's
joke.
talk about what.
Right,
Let's talk
right.
about is how. What are your thoughts on it?
Right. Well, I've often made this joke. And I'd rather die than go to prison. And for me, it's kind of half joking, but at the same time, it's just one of those things where it's just like, prison isn't something that you send like jokesters or that kind of stuff to. It's the place where you send people who you have to keep controlled, otherwise they're a threat to society. Count Dankula making an edgy joke is not someone you have to keep controlled. It is.
Are you kidding? He could make jokes from freaking prison.
Yeah, you can. It's just like, and it's just, the whole thing is ridiculous. And
Keep in mind that it's potential. It's potential that he can go to prison. You know,
right.
Sending
I mean,
until the middle of April, as far as I'm aware.
No, I understand that. But it's just the fact that he's been convicted and prison is a possibility, and that doesn't make any sense to me. Why prison would be a possibility?
No, I'm with you on that.
yeah, no, that's
Like in my opinion, I think I felt the same did when we were going through this thing. Like, I constantly make jokes like why do they keep cock teasing him? Because how many times did he go to trial and they're like, well, we're gonna push this back.
So, at least in the United States, I have experience with this. When the judge makes a judgment, they have to explain how they came to that judgment. They have
Okay.
to cite the evidence that they used, they took into account to come to that judgment, right?
Okay. Right.
In Count Dankula's case, it pretty much came to the judge had to figure out how he came to the conclusion that he did. You know, it wasn't really so much as jerking him around. I mean, it was, but
Well, no, I
this
just
case
mean,
should have been open and shut. It was a fucking joke for crying
right,
out loud.
Yeah.
It
right,
was in the freaking video that he was literally making his dog do the least cute thing he can think of just to annoy his girlfriend. Right?
right, right. Well, when I say jokes, I just mean like when I, you know how he kept like the trial kept getting pushed back and pushed back. At no point during that time did I ever think, oh yeah, he's gonna get convicted. I was like, they're just gonna push this out as long as they
No,
can.
and that's unfortunately that's one of the problems of America, at least Americans, when it came to this situation, is like we couldn't possibly imagine someone getting convicted of any kind of crime because they told a joke.
Right,
Yeah.
You know, you getting fired, sure. Getting fired from your
right,
job, sure. You know, like losing your girlfriend or wife in an extreme case, or your husband in an extreme case, sure. But convicted of a crime? No. And why? Because we have freedom of speech clearly laid out in our Bill of Rights. You know, we take that for granted. You know, we can say whatever the fuck we want out on the street, and the only thing we're going to have to really worry about is street justice. You
right.
know, someone
Looking
taking exception to what we have to say and deciding to let us know that they take exception with what we said by punching us in the face. You know, that's the most that we as a people have to worry about when making jokes in a legal concept, right?
and for me, what it just basically came down to was when I heard that he got convicted, it it just it sent me on a little bit of a Twitter rant.
Mm,
Like we'd actually talked about this a little bit more before, where I was going off, but it to imagine someone getting convicted for a joke, and I think the main thing that got me pissed off was the fact that people were supporting it. Like
yeah, no,
like
that's
like
I get what you're
Mike
saying.
Mike, what was his name? What's his name? Michael Rowlands.
Mike Rollins is a fucking potato. Don't even worry about him.
Just fucking Michael Rowlands. Like he's blocked me on Twitter, so I don't even know what half the things he says
Yeah,
anymore.
Music Man Mike on Twitter. Yeah,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
a fucking potato, man. Don't worry about him.
Like
It,
like
so like Buck, you saw my tweet, right?
I think so.
He
think
he
so.
has the freaking critical thinking of a potato,
Yeah.
something like that. You can't just don't worry about him. Don't let anything that guy says ever bother you. He's literally on the intellectual level of a potato person.
it wasn't just him though. Like
I
going
know
back
it
to
wasn't just him, but
going
he's
back
a
to
bad example.
right, okay, so I don't even know the name of the other guy, so I'm just gonna
Was it Mike Stuckberry or Stitchberry? I don't.
yeah.
Yeah, I know who you're talking. I don't even know who this guy is,
I
but
had
I
no
recognize
idea.
that.
And I was really trying not to fight him.
Oh man, I called him a fucking knobbin. I was just
Yeah, I know. It was
like
great. I was like, oh man, this is entirely entertaining.
I I didn't want any I was going no horns barred against the guy because I'm just like, fuck you. Because he literally comes out the door with Dank's cheer squad of edgelords should stop being so disingenuous. This dude was teaching his girlfriend's pug to Hitler salute and on command to gas the Jews with the hope that he'd go viral. There are still Britons who survived in the camps. Dude needs to take some responsibility for his action. Fuck
And
you.
I quote, it was a fucking joke, you not. You would seriously agree that a joke is worthy of sending someone to prison? You're mental. I'm going to just add the E in there.
Thank you. That was my tweet.
I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, oh man, this is... Oh, that's great.
Keyboard fight.
But
It was
me, I honestly, when it comes to me, I'm still in shock about it.
right?
I can't even properly formulate an opinion on the situation because I'm so thoroughly flabbergasted that this has happened. I can't believe it. I'm still coming to terms with the fact that someone in the Western world, so to speak, it has been convicted of a crime for making a joke on YouTube. It doesn't matter what, and what gets me even more is that they've thrown context right out the
Yeah,
fucking
that-
window with it.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
Like
that pissed me off.
context is one of the most important things when it comes to Britain, at least. It's like Irate Bear did a bit on it not too long ago, I think it was, where it was either Irate Bear or Sargon of Akkad. I'm not sure. I don't follow that many British YouTubers, but it was one of those two who brought up that context is everything when it comes to copywriting. You
Yeah.
know, what was it? What was that YouTube channel called? Walkman something. And it was a couple of years ago, and he would constantly be uploading stuff, and he'd get copyright strikes. But because it was the context of what he was uploading, it was Sargon of Akkad. Okay, because I'm remembering he made the video regarding context
Mhm.
based on the lawsuit he's facing
Right.
Oh yeah.
from
Is it
Marine. Was it
Aquila
Marina Shop?
something or
no,
other?
No, Aquila. It's
Aquila what?
I don't know what her last
I
name
don't
is.
remember her last name. I will always remember her first name though.
But yeah, it was Aquila, and it was all context. It was all about context,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And that's why I just context, the fact that they threw context out to make this ruling. I'm in complete shock of it. It's like how, and I've already lost faith in our justice system because of what happened to me. And now I'm seeing it happening over in the United Kingdom, and I'm just thinking the end times are coming. The end times of this country, you know, I'd give this country another 50 years at most if it keeps on this current path. At
Well,
most.
It's not just that. It's not just that. Like on top of that, his conviction comes out within a week or two of the whole thing with that town in England
Mm-hmm.
that is having an
Yeah, with the
issue
grooming gangs.
Yeah, for the past 40 fucking years where they haven't done shit about it. The police know about it. They know it exists. They know.
Are you kidding?
Almost everything.
There's an account from one of a whole bunch of these freaking cases were just tossed out because they would just the higher ups said they weren't really worth going after. It's
Right,
like, you motherfucker. It's like, this is a fucking law that's being this is an actual law that's being broken. There are kids who are being taken advantage of and abused
Raped.
and raped
And you're
by
going after a
these,
stoner with a fucking pug.
and you're going
Yeah,
after a freaking someone who
You're
made a
spending 2
fucking
fucking
joke
years.
on a debunked freaking ideology that's been debunked for 60, 70 fucking years now. It's intolerable. I mean,
It's
I'm
ridiculous.
surprised. If he goes to jail for this, I would be surprised if there weren't riots in the fucking street.
Well, yeah.
I
It's
wouldn't be surprised if the whole of Scotland's shitlord community doesn't start rioting if he goes to jail. If he spends any time in prison, I would be surprised if they didn't. I would be
England, if-
disappointed if they didn't.
England, if
I
Dent goes to jail, I want to see long swords and full plate. Fucking.
Buck will just go to Seattle, and me and you will start up
I'm
protest.
I am legitimately emotional about this. It's not fair.
No, it's
This
not
is
fair.
this is an outrage.
And this is kind of my big issue is like I can't imagine going to jail, like especially for this. And like I just said, like I've made jokes like I'd rather die. Jail is fucking terrible. Like
No,
Jesus
well-
Christ, and it's not even better over there because one thing that I don't remember who it was that brought it up. There is actually reports of people who go to jail and who have spoken out against Islam.
There was
They
a
don't
guy.
make it
There was a
out.
guy. There was a guy who went to jail for leaving a bacon
Yeah,
He
he
was
didn't make it out of
dead
jail.
in his cell 6 months later, and
Yeah.
the reason and I can tell you exactly why. It's because the jails are filled with, Muslims.
Yeah,
They
Yeah.
found out that he went to. They probably found out that he went to jail because he put a bacon sandwich in front of he left a bacon sandwich in front of a mosque, and they were like, no, that's not gonna fly, and they killed him.
they killed him. And Jesus Christ, like just like all of the other shit on top of it, and then now and that, all of this for a fucking joke. It. Oh Jesus, I have
Yeah.
no word.
That's basically how I feel about it. I'm in shock. I'm still in shock now. I don't have the words to describe how angry this makes me. And I just, and the worst part about it is just like I'm butting heads with my own principles. It's like it's their country. It's their place to talk about it, not mine. I would not feel comfortable with someone from another country telling me that, something that happens in my country is ridiculous or whatever. It's not their place to say it. It's mine, and I'll say it. And that's where I'm at. It's like I have all of these feelings about the situation, and I have all of these thoughts and all of these logicked out conclusions, and all of them are just churning around inside of me right now, and all of it comes to a great big fuck you to the Scottish Police Department, especially after seeing that fucking stupid moronic tweet that they fucking put out. It's like, dude, you don't have enough fucking time to be fucking making tweets about chasing people down for making fucking troll freaking posts and trolling people online when you've got a fucking grooming gang running around in your fucking streets freaking picking up 13-year-old freaking girls, regardless of whether they're white, brown, or Asian, as long as they're not Muslim. Pick them up because they're fucking trash to them and just doing whatever the fuck they want to them, whether it's against the law or not. Dude, get your fucking act together. Do something. Do something that's actually right.
Do your fucking job.
Serve and protect the goddamn community. And the community is not the fucking
Internet.
bureaucrats and the community is not the bureaucrats. The community is not the fucking vocal minority. The community is the whole. You know, you've got a very very small minority of people taking advantage of a very large group of people who are in a position where they don't know what the fuck is going on. They don't have the ability to protect themselves from it. It is your fucking job to fucking take care of them. And you're not fucking doing it.
No, not in any way can you consider them protecting the citizens of their society. The people that are being raped and stolen and all of that kind of stuff, they're not being protected. Like, I've heard some of the stories of the victims that have gone through it.
So I don't
We're
even
not
dare.
being protected. Oh, it's hard. It's fucking hard to listen to.
Dude, I don't even dare try because I would be trying to figure out a way to get over there with weapons, and I'm not saying I would actually go through. I would be thinking
Disclaimer.
about it. Yeah, disclaimer. I would be thinking about ways that I could figure out to get over there with some kind of arsenal and just start taking care of things myself.
You'd go to town on England.
I
the UK,
would-
like Adam Worski
I would go
on Hasbro.
Punisher. I would go Punisher on their asses, at least in my mind, first time. You know, one of those. I have to freaking release the aggressions out of my brain, type deals. So I'm going to imagine this while I'm going to sleep. Get up from while I'm trying to go to sleep and go take care of the erection that it caused me.
Nothing's wrong, just
No,
another
it's
murder
just
boner,
like-
dear. You'll be fine.
I just and the most absurd thing about it is, like, I know Muslims. I know quite a few of them,
Right.
and they're not like this. They don't treat people that way. And they're just normal Americans who get on with their lives and build something for their families, you know?
Yeah.
It's just it boggles the mind that people can freaking use an ideology like. It just doesn't make sense to me, and it breaks my heart that these young women have to go through this. I said that wrong. They don't have to go through this. It breaks my heart that they do go through this,
As long as
and
the
even more so
police-
because they don't have to go through this. If the police would step up and actually do their fucking job, they wouldn't be going through this.
Right, and that's the biggest problem. It's this all is completely avoidable. Like, you can go off and just these police could fix this. They have all of the information from everything that I know. Like, they've had multiple sightings and documented a ton of shit, but they won't fix this.
They won't go after them because they're afraid of being called racist. Because
Because a
the
bunch
Western civilization is just so terrified of being called racist, and it's like, dude, grow a fucking sack at this point. Do what you think is right, regardless of what people are going to think of you, regardless of what people are going to call you, because at the end of the day, you did the right fucking thing. And that's all you really need to know.
be conscious, don't be a fucking cog.
Basically,
I mean, that
it's so frustrating because I know that so many people care so much about what people think of them. people that they don't even know think of them. And I'm just like, there are very few people that I care about what they think of me. It is my closest friend. That is my freaking brother. I mean, uh, there's my parents and my wife. And in a couple of years, my kids. Those are the only people that I'm going to give a shit about what they think of me. Um,
Yeah, and there's just it
It's
but
infuriating.
it says something about the fucking culture, doesn't it? Like, if that is that big of a
well,
problem,
I mean, yeah, I mean,
they've
it's
gone
just,
back to a dignity culture rather than a what's it called? I'm gonna have
it's
to
just,
Google it.
it goes back to the freaking, the civil rights movement back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. You know, it's just like people are just so afraid of being called a racist. And I'm like, I'm at the point where I know I'm not racist. And if someone calls me a racist, I'm just going to look at them and say, so? And you think I'm a racist, but I know I'm not. So fuck you. Is and I'm not. I I don't even really know how to explain this. It's like people are going to group with like-minded people. It doesn't matter what color of skin they are. You know, it's how you think, it's how you feel, it's the things that are important to you that's going to cause you and other people to gravitate together. It's like if I were to, I'll be straight honest. I have a hard time. I'm going to come out on air and actually say this. I have a hard time women after what my ex-wife did to me. I have a really hard time doing it.
No, I'm
You
kind
know,
of right there with you.
after what she did to me, after what she and the judge in the hearing case that I was in with in regards to my daughter did to me, I have a hard time trusting him. I mean, I almost didn't get married to my wife because of this. You know, I almost never actually got into a relationship with her because of this. And thank whatever deity you believe in that I did. But
Praise
as
Bezos.
random women off the freaking street, I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. You know, and quite a few of them I can't throw at all because they weigh 3 times as much as I do. But and it's like it doesn't. But it comes back to if I were to get to know a woman and we actually got to be friends, it would be not because we have the same skin tone or the same hair color or something like that. It was because we have the same interests. We have fun with what we're doing. And that's what it comes back to is people are going to group together because they have common interests. That's how it's always been. That's how tribes started. It started with survival, and then it moved on to the professions, and then it moved on to freaking social statuses and so on and so forth. You know, it doesn't matter what color of skin the person is, as long as he proves himself in your eyes, he's as good as anything. I mean, I
Amen.
when I was a young kid, most of my experiences with black dudes was actually, the thug culture. Because I was going through middle and high school, and the middle and high schools that I went through was actually in a pretty rough neighborhood. So you had a lot of thugs or wannabe thugs, and in my in later life, my experiences changed.
Yeah.
I actually had quite a few friends when I was working in warehousing, and they were all black. But they weren't those the high school and middle school freaking immature pukes. that I had gone through with before. So my opinion changed.
Yeah.
You know, my natural disposition changed. You know, it went from that wariness of, is this guy gonna fucking go all freaking, I want to be the biggest badass in the room, to, oh, hey, this guy's kind of funny. Let's have a conversation with him. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and which just goes to show it doesn't matter what people's skin color is. You know, sure, you're gonna have your off the cuff uh unconscious biases, or whatever the social justice warriors like to say,
Yeah.
but you know, that unconscious bias, that's only going to take you so far. You know, once you actually get to know the person, it doesn't matter what color their skin is, it doesn't matter what color their eyes are, it doesn't matter how they talk, it doesn't matter if they can speak English well or not. I mean, if they're good people, they're good people.
Exactly.
I apologize for going off on the rant.
Hey,
It's been
no.
quite a while since we've had a smart pig rant. I think it's been quite a while indeed. In fact, I think it's been so long since we've had a smart pig rant that it was before the show even started.
I think so, and I think it's
yeah,
been
I don't think
earned.
I've ever. Yeah,
And it's just- I don't know. So does anybody have any closing statements?
Fuck Scotland.
so,
I don't know. I
I
can't really
was-
go so far. I can't really go so far as to say fuck Scotland, because Scotland gave us the gift of still game.
Fuck the Scottish police. Fuck the
There we
UK
go.
justice system. How about that?
Don't move to the UK.
But I'll actually closing statement. Fuck the Scottish police.
That I can get behind.
The verdict of grossly offensive, my ass.
Hashtag grossly
the-
offensive.
Yes. I actually found the fact that he was, you know, convicted of being grossly offensive, extremely grossly offensive. It's a double. Adjective there.
Double
Doesn't-
entendre.
Double
adjective,
secret offense.
Yeah. And I would love to find who I can contact to you know, send the judge to jail for it. But
That's not gonna happen.
probably not.
I'm sure you can find
Um,
someone on the deep web
but-
who will
but,
send him to an early grave. But
Let's not make these kind of comments.
we're mad. We're mad.
So, my closing statement, and I'll try not to go off. Ladies and gentlemen, just pay attention to what's going on and get involved in politics. You know, support your rights. You have a voice. It might be a small one, but it is one. If you don't want to see what's going on in the United Kingdom to go on here in the United States, then get involved. Whether that's making YouTube videos, political commentaries, or going out to your local constituencies, or whatever you call them, and voting. Do it. It's like, don't let this go too far, because once it's gone too far, there's only radical solutions at that point. And with that, this has been your Locked and Loaded of the 27th of March now for me.
yes, technically.
Episode 9, Free at Last, an ironic name, if anything.
Yeah, with how things
Y'all
ended,
have been,
I'm gonna have to
y'all
change
have been
that.
a great audience. Thank you and good night.
Good night, everybody.